city to hit. It's known all over everywhere. Everybody gets down hard for cash, comes to Dallas to make it because of the police department being spread out, and they just not staying in the infested areas where the place of money is. That's why we all come here and make our money when we need it real bad.
Do you think the Dallas police force is efficient in what force it does have?
The Dallas Police Department?
Yes.
Well, it could be more sufficient in the amount of men they have.
Now, do you think that the addition of extra men plus armed reserves might help decrease crime?
Well, I think more men, and if it put dogs with the policemen, it would decrease crime.
It was really rather wonderful. And the major has communicated his enthusiasm for the aircraft very eloquently, and I can understand it. I was amazed at the maneuverability of an aircraft of this weight and size.
Are you going to bring Senator McClellan down for a ride?
But I think it might not do any harm for all members of the committee to have a ride. The committee is accustomed to giving others a ride. It might be a good idea to have this kind of experience. Really, to fully appreciate the aircraft from the point of view that we have to look at it, I suppose, a ride like this isn't a bad idea. Not that it makes us an expert. You can't move from the role of a senator and a layman into the flight of into the role of an evaluator of an aircraft like this in one flight. But it does give you an impression that I think is very valuable and useful.
Senator, you mean at this time you had not, you wouldn't have an opinion as to whether you would support the F-111's continuance?
Well, I have no case against the F-111, and such impression as I had of it today is highly favorable. But that doesn't make me an expert on the F-111, and for me to answer your question as though I were an expert would be misleading.
Do you consider Senator McClellan an expert?
Well, I don't know how much time he's given to the study. Or what aspects of it he has studied. I know that when he goes into something, he goes into it rather thoroughly. But I'm sure he's not a pilot, or if he is, he's kept it a secret.
I think maybe we ought to get him down here to make him more of an expert.
You're looking at a brand new book, a hardback book called Southwest Conference Football 1968. This is the first of what is hoped to be a series of these books. With me is the publisher, Mr. Phil Gemmer of Houston. Mr. Gemmer, tell us about this book, what's inside, and what made you decide to publish it.
Right, Bob. Our book contains the complete calendar year 1968 season. We commence with the Cotton Bowl of '68, have colored squad photos, and then move into the season proper and cover each and every game with story, 2 photos, and statistics. At the end of each week, we've got a summary of the nation's top 10, the linemen in the back of the week in the Southwest Conference, statistical leaders on offense and defense, and when freshman teams compete, we've got their results.
Now, this book has been on the market for over 20 days now. It went on not too long after the season ended. How did you manage to get it together so quickly?
Well, we got excellent cooperation from our printer and our bindery, and we were able to get it out exactly 30 days after Rice and Baylor put the ball in the box.
Immediately after an experienced hijacker told Channel 8 News that the city of Dallas provides an easy hit for armed robbers, that they come here to make money, City Councilman Charles Cullum denied that Dallas is an easy hit for robbers, and he predicted a crackdown on the part of city police and the district attorney. District Attorney Henry Wade, on the other hand, told Channel 8 News that fewer than 1 out of 10 crimes ever gets to a courtroom. Wade laid much of the blame on victims who will not complain, witnesses who will not appear, and insufficient evidence. Today, Channel 8 News is in the office of noted defense attorney Charles Tesmer to find out what part the defense attorney plays in the trial and conviction of people such as armed robbers. Mr. Tesmer, an armed robber, knowing that he can get a good attorney who might get him off with an acquittal or a light sentence, does he feel safer into walking into a store with a gun in his hand?
I wouldn't say so. In my opinion, people who commit armed robberies are usually very young men who don't think of the consequences of what will happen to them if they take a gun and stick it in a man's face. I further believe that armed robbery cases are the easiest cases the district attorney has to convict on. All he needs is an identifying witness if there has been a legitimate identification. Armed robbers always commit more than one crime, so the chances of apprehending them are quite good. Our Dallas Police Department apprehends many armed robbers because each person that's caught carrying a gun in his car is pretty well checked out before he's released by putting him in lineups if there's any reason to believe that he's used that gun in a robbery. Acquittal rate probably 1 out of 75 in armed robbery cases.
It is said that he tried to hide away in California. Jimmy, you shouldn't have done that. You could have come to Texas. We've got some people hiding out here now, one down on the banks of the river Pedernales. We've got another one that has slunk away from Austin to the secrecies of Houston, Texas. Oh, yes, this is a great place for refugees. That he claims that he ought to be complimented because he says that he hits the thing right 80% of the time. Why, that's nothing to brag about. What if a parachute jumper only hit it?
I knew the Jets were going to win this ball game. But for 2 years, I've been trying to catch the attention of the Bonehead Club, and they just wouldn't pay it. So I figured, well, now what boner can I pull this year? So I tried with the Dallas Cowboys. I predicted that they and the New York Jets would play in the Super Bowl, and that the Cowboys would beat them and be the Super Bowl champions. But nobody paid any attention to it because I guess I was 50% right since the Jets, so nobody paid any attention to it. Then I figured, well, how can I get that Bonehead Club again? So I figured, well, I can pick Nixon in Texas over Humphrey. I did. I blowed that one.
This barracks was built in the spring of 1939 for Royal Air Force cadets of the British that we were training here. And they moved to an establishment at Terrell, Texas. In the middle of 1939, we used these barracks from then on for the American cadets that we trained here. In 1941, when after Pearl Harbor, we moved all the flying training away from Love Field to other less congested areas, and General Brandt, the commanding general of the Southern Training Command, asked me to establish a mechanics school here. And I had to train a man in 90 days that could go to North Africa and crew a bomber. It seems that they'd gotten the airplanes being built and the cadets trained, but they'd forgotten that it takes about 15 men on the ground to keep one airplane going in the air. And we had on hand at all times 1,500 mechanics being trained. We ran 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, and did send a man away in 90 days that was fairly capable of crewing a bomber. We trained till the end of the war approximately 20,000 mechanics on these premises. We had here the first training school for Royal Air Force cadets in the United States. They were moved to Terrell, and we trained the cadets there. The first 3 classes that we sent to England, 50% of them were killed in less than 2 months in the Battle of Britain. We taught the boys on AT-6s. They went to England with about 6 hours transition, got in Spitfires and shot the Germans down at the rate of 4 to 1, which nobody yet can understand, because the Luftwaffe was the best trained, best equipped Air Force ever to be put in the air. But the British kids had more guts and go to it